This week, learn how to draw a straight line without a ruler. Right after someone says, I'm not an artist, 9 times out of 10 they'll say, I can't even draw a straight line. You've probably said it yourself. Now, you can really draw straight lines. It's more important, though, you can draw straight lines with character. So we're going to show you how to do that. And the first thing I'm going to do is grab a new canvas like we usually do. And same settings as before. We're going to be using charcoal settings for everything, especially the brush, because we may not be using the other ones. Some dark color for your color, and I'm actually going to make it a little warmer and make a little lighter version of a dark color. So I'll use a brown. And we're going to make some straight lines. Now, I want to show you two things. And the first one I'm going to pull out my Apple Pencil to show you the real problem. Now, we usually hold a pencil something like this. And if you go across like this, you'll see that it sort of makes a nice line. If you make a big line like this, it'll always look good. So that's one way to make sure you got a good line. But the other way is if I bring the size down and try it again with my Apple Pencil, you see what most people have the problem with, and my hand is even worse than most because I shake so much, is you can see that it just doesn't look very straight. It's got all that extra little bits on it. That's not a very straight line, and everyone goes, oh, that's not a straight line, and that's not what we want. So here, let's try this again. Now I'm going to use my pinch method that I've been using for my fingers, and I'm just going to go strictly like this, and you can start to see if I just move my arm, those are pretty straight lines. Okay? The other way I can do it is go back and forth like this, and you can see I'm starting to see a straight line. Particularly if you've got a thin line, you'll get some average in between those lines that is a straight line. Now, when you see these people doing sketchy, a lot of people do sketchy things like this. Don't do the sketchy thing like this. But what you can do is make long lines like this, and now you're making a decent line. Where you'll have that in the center is going to be your good average line, and that is a good straight line. Now, all of these lines, with the exception of the other one you can do in Procreate, which is I can draw a line, hold it down, and it'll make a straight line for me, and I can drag it a little bit if I want to change the angle. You can see that line on the bottom has absolutely zero character. It doesn't look very artistic, and you really don't want straight lines like that. You can make them, and that's great, but it's more fun to make the lines where you're sketching them out. It gives more energy, it gives more character to your painting. So let's go ahead and keep looking at this. Now, I've been doing horizontal lines. You can do the same thing vertically, so I can just go back and forth like this with my finger, and I make a vertical line. I'm going to do that again. And there you go. I got myself a nice vertical line. I did it a couple times just to get something dark in there. And you can start to see those lines. So I've got some lines here. Now, if I try to go over here, maybe I want some parallel to the one over here. That's not so easy. You know, it's hard to do diagonals. You might get good at them. So I'm going to give you a trick. Is what you do is you rotate the page so that you have a horizontal and vertical. And horizontal and verticals you'll get really good at, so you can make a nice parallel on the vertical, like that. Or maybe on the horizontal, I'll do that to this line here. So for diagonals, I can do this line here, and I can do but now I've got lines that are pretty close to being parallel. So that's how you can get some parallel lines. It's just try to keep them in one of the two major axes, so you're only going horizontal or vertical. So that's what you're going to do here. So all I want you to do is draw more lines. So do something like this, and what I want you to do is just draw a whole bunch of straight lines. And a good way to do that is to make some piece of abstract art, and I'm just going to start one here, where I'm going to take a bunch of lines and put them in here. You'll notice I can actually go in zoom in a whole bunch, and if I make a small straight line in a big size, it looks really straight if I go back out and zoom out. So you can also try playing with some zooms in here and just make a whole bunch of lines like so. Pull out your blender maybe blend some of these areas together, like so. Maybe take your eraser, try making some lines with the eraser as well, and try coming up with some kind of abstract art like I'm doing here, where you're just taking various lines and planes and blending them together to make solids. You can even scribble in a little of them sometimes. Oops, let's go back to this. And I'm going to create my opacity. Scribble in a little bit to make it darker. Bring down that brush size a bit. And start making some lines and planes and stuff like that. And you can make yourself some cool abstract work, something pretty cubist in its stature. So we're going to go ahead and try that, see what you can do. And when you're done with making all your lines, go ahead and send that to me on Twitter at Steve Lipton with the hashtag ExploreProcreate. And you start playing with these lines. Now we're going to start using those lines in our next lesson for the next major shape we're going to need to know. And so don't forget to subscribe so you get all of the upcoming lessons and you won't miss a single episode that way. And check out the series webpage. You'll find a link for that in the description below.